Hello and welcome to Wednesday's live workshop. We are here live at Bamboo Bicycle Club in London, and what I'm going to be covering today is biocomposites. I'm going to explain a little bit about what biocomposites are, and then I'm going to run through a live demo of how you apply them to your bamboo bicycle, and we're also going to look at other applications, what else you can use biocomposites for, and so on. So for those of you that don't know what biocomposites are where you take a natural material, whether it's bamboo, flax fibre, hemp, twine, cotton, other materials like that, and you combine them with a glue or an agent of some kind, and you form a new material. So you can form a new shape, or you mould it together. And that creates what it does is it binds that material together and it creates a really strong natural material. So most of you will be familiar, for example, with carbon fibre. That's an unnatural man-made composite. And what we're looking at are what natural plants can give us and how we can further engineer them to be interesting shape, whether it's more aerodynamic or whether we can improve the overall strength of them. So that's what I'm going to cover here with biocomposites. I've got a few examples in front of me of what a biocomposite might look like, so you guys can have a look and see what you've got. So what we use in our kit is we use a flax fibre. So what I've got here, and I'll get a larger piece just so you can see. I've got a large piece of flax fibre here, and what this is, it's flax. For those of you that don't know, it's a natural plant that grows, and this is what's harvested from it, and you create this fibre, and then this is woven. So this is a woven fibre, and it's unbleached or it's unprocessed, but it is woven. And the benefit of a woven fabric is it gives you a dual directional pattern, so that when you go and lay it up and join it together, it comes from both angles, so you've got a dual directional weave, so it can be a lot stronger and it's a lot easier to lay up. An example of a single directional fibre is this one here. So it's a single directional, and you can see this is almost like a string. Okay, I can break that up. Okay, and that's a raw flax fibre as well, and it isn't woven. Okay, so those are two examples there of biofibres. Okay, and what we've also got here is I'm going to talk a little bit about the glue that we've got here. So this is known as an epoxy resin. So there's different types of glues, but this is one that we use, and this is a plant-based epoxy resin. So it's made out of plant oils and so on, so similar to like a sunflower oil or so on, and it's got a much lower carbon footprint. And this is basically what we're going to use to bond all of our fibres together. Okay, so that's our natural resin there. Yeah. What I'm going to start to do now, guys, is firstly I'm going to have a beer. So I'm going to stop, and as ever, today we've got from the Gun Brewery in Sussex. We've got a nice IPA. So I'm going to pour that out. And if you're just joining us, I'm going to cover biocomposites today. So what I've just done is I've run through some different type of materials. So we've got some natural dual weave flax fibre there, and we've got a single directional weave flax fibre there. So it's just this basic cloth, and people have been using natural fibres for years, whether it's in boat making, whether it's in cars and so on. And what we can do is we combine it with a glue, and then we've got a really interesting product in terms of strength, longevity, and natural dampening is what, you know, natural fibres will really, really do well. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to run through a short demo, and I've got a bamboo frame here, and I'll just explain what stage I'm at with this bamboo frame so you just understand it a little bit more. And I've just dumped the frame in the middle of this shoot. So this is the front triangle. So we've got the top tube, we've got the down tube, and we've got the seat tube. I've already bonded this tube earlier today at some point, and I'm just going to bond the seat tube and the bottom bracket as the next step. Obviously you haven't got the rear triangle. I'm just going to demo very briefly how you do the join here. And you can see that I've mitered and joined the bamboo together here. So that's all joined. And what we're now going to do is reinforce that so that it won't come apart. And we're going to add the biocomposite all around this structure here. And we're going to create what's known as a lug. So we're going to create that connection there. And obviously behind this is a jig. And what the jig does is it just keeps everything aligned so that the angles are maintained. And so that when we put a wheel on or we do anything else, everything works perfectly. So that's roughly what I've got here. I'm going to talk you guys through how I would set up to do this. So the first thing I've done on my bench, you can see here, I put some paper down, and that's a non-permeable paper so that I won't leave any residue or any mess as I work. So the key when you're working with biocomposites, or if you're using any glues at home, or if you're doing any mold making or anything like that, is prepare the surface, make sure it's clean, put some protective coating down. So I put just some non-permeable paper, brown paper, which I can recycle at the end of this, so it's ideal. And then what I've got is I've got the glue here, so I've got all that set up. And then finally, when you use epoxy resins or any type of glues, if it's a two-part glue, it's very, very, very important that when you mix it correctly. Because something like an epoxy resin, it's a chemical reaction, okay? And it's the two parts that are joining together to form a polymer. And therefore, if you don't mix them correctly, they will not set. It's not like a wood glue or something where the water is evaporating off. It's a chemical reaction. So you need to be really, really careful how you mix that. And to do that, I've got a ratio cup. So if you've made things in the kitchen, you'll have kind of all kinds of measuring jugs. It's very similar to that. And what it will allow me to do is it will allow very clearly, I can see how much I'm pouring out. If you don't have a ratio cup at home, that's not a problem. You can use your weighing scales. If you've got some in the kitchen, just grab those. What I often do if I'm using weighing scales is I just put a plastic sleeve or some paper over them so that I don't put any glue residue, because it's not going to be very tasty when you come to baking at home using the same scales, okay? So as I said, I've got a ratio cup here. And if you're just joining, I'm running through Bio Composites. So I'm talking about flax fibres, hemp fibres, all those fun stuff. And what I'm moving on to now is I'm going to do a short demo for everyone and just give you some tips of how you can create a really good, strong biocomposite and how you can join the bamboo together safely. And if you're doing a kit at home, hopefully this will give you a bit more ideas. So our home build kits will come with all this included, just to let you all know. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of beer. So if you're joining me, do grab a beer. I've got my typical bamboo cup, quite a large one today, and we're drinking a beer from the Gun Brewery, okay, Sussex born. So it's a local London brewery. So enjoy. I mean, it's almost home time. Almost. The only thing I've forgotten is a brush. I'm just going to grab a brush. Right. So I've got a brush. A brush is really important because as I mentioned, we need to mix everything really carefully. I really like a silicone brush because it's completely reusable. So I can get hundreds of uses out of this. I'm not going to dispose of it. It's a lot more sustainable. So get a silicone brush and then you can reuse it again and again. So here's an example here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some gloves on. Okay, really important when you're working with any glues to protect yourself. So make sure you've got gloves on. I've got long sleeves on as well. And if I wasn't doing a live video, I would put a mask on as well, because whatever glue vapors there are, and the glues we use are actually almost odorless, but I think it's always good to protect yourself. Everyone's got masks at the moment, I'm sure, so pop one of those on while you work, and then that's going to just keep you safe. So pop your gloves on. First thing to do is I've got two big things of glue, so I've got about 0.7 grams of glue here. Whatever you do, do not mix all the glue at once, okay? Because you've got a pot life. A pot life means that the pot that you mix will only last a certain amount of time. So normally it's anything between 20, half an hour, and for longer setting glues it can be up to 3 hours. And that really depends on what type of hardener you're using. So this is the hardener, this one here, the smaller pot, and this is the epoxy. And you can get different types of hardeners with different set times. So for example, if you're working in a really, really hot environment, get a longer hardener time, because the hotter it is, the quicker the glue will set, okay? So you can get different hardener settings. So just if you're looking at different glues, just have a look at the different hardener. If you're in a cold setting, you don't need to worry as much. I'm in London. As you can imagine, it's raining, so it's quite cool in here today. So I don't really need to worry about the set time as much, okay? Now, as I said, don't mix all the glue at once. I'm going to do small batches, and I'm going to do them often. So it gives me lots of time to work with the glue. And then if the glue goes off too quickly, I'm not wasting glue, because I've only got a certain amount of glue to work with. So I'm going to take the lid off, and I'm going to start with the epoxy. And on my ratio cup, I'm going to do roughly, well, I'm going to do 100 grams of the epoxy. So I'll just pour that out, and I'm just going to look closely so I can do this as accurate as possible. So just pour out. So as I said, small batches often. Okay, I'm going to do 100. And then what I would always advise doing is just check the hardener and check the ratio. It will tell you on the hardener the ratio of hardener to epoxy. So this is a 1:4. So I'm going to put 100 of the epoxy, and I'm going to put 40 of the hardener. Some people I've seen will go, oh, I put a bit more hardener in because I wanted to set quicker, or so on, so on. That doesn't matter. Make sure you mix the correct ratio. It's really, really important to make sure that it will set perfectly and it will give you good durability. So I'm going to just pop in 40 of this. And again, I'm just measuring it. As carefully, I'm taking my time. I'm making sure that I get the ratios right. If you mix it and you measure it all up and you've realised you've mixed the wrong ratio, throw it away. Start again and make sure you mix it correctly. Okay. So for those of you just joining, I'm running through Bio Composites. We're looking at flax fibres. We're looking at bamboo. We're joining them together. I've talked through some flax fibres usage. So you'll see them on surfboards. You'll see them on all sorts of things like that. So there's loads of applications for them. The car industry use them a lot. So that's lots of research you can look at. We're using them on a bamboo bike, and we're using them to join them. I've mixed my glue, so I'm all mixed up there, and we're using a plant-based resin. And what I'm going to start to do is I've mixed the two parts together. I'm now going to mix it. If you don't mix it, it won't set, okay? Don't get overexcited and don't mix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it for at least a minute. And when I mix it, I'm not whisking it like double cream. I'm folding it like a souffle, okay? So just fold the glue. And that means that you maintain the work time. If you mix it too fast, your work time, your set time will increase a lot. So if I just mix that slowly, making sure that I fold the two parts together, I'm going to get a lot better work time out of this, okay? If you fail to mix the glue, it will not set, okay? And you'll just be left with a gooey structure with no structural strength, okay? So make sure the glue is mixed each time, and I would spend a minimum of 1 minute. I probably won't spend a minute now, but I'll try my best. I'd often have a stopwatch and just time yourself, sing yourself a song, whatever you want. Try and measure how much glue you're mixing and so on. Okay. Once that's all dry, once that's all mixed rather, what I'm going to do is I pre-cut some of my fibre into strips. And that means it's going to be really easy to apply onto my bamboo. Okay. So I'm going to take my first strip, I'm going to lay it on top of the paper, and I often do 2 or 3 strips at once, because then if I've got any excess glue, it's all going to get absorbed. Okay. And I'm going to lay that on the paper, and I'll show you as I do this. I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter. And using the brush, I'm going to liberally apply glue, okay? If the fabric is not wet through, it will not bond, okay? But do not make the fabric too wet, okay? If you get to a point where you need to squeeze any glue out, that's not good, okay? The balance is that the glue is soaked through the fabric, but there's not excess. If you've got excess, you're going to end up with additional weight in the frame, and you're also going to end up with a build-up of glue, and unfortunately with a build-up of glue you end up with a more brittle layer, okay? So it's going to be more brittle. So just try and make sure that you apply a liberal amount of glue and then just brush that through gently through the fabric. The fabric only becomes a biocomposite if you apply the glue correctly, okay? So if you're just joining, I'm doing a live demo on biocomposite. And for any questions, I'm going to answer questions at the end, so feel free to join in, ask any questions, and I will do my best to answer them at the end. So feel free to add a comment with any questions. So guys, what I've done there, and you'll see the change in colour, so I'll show you another piece here, and you'll see this is now saturated through. What I always tend to do is I tend to squeeze out any excess resin, and this is known in the industry as a hand layup. So I'm doing this, it's the most basic form of composite engineering, but we're doing a hand layup method, okay? For any of you that want to look this up a bit more. What I'm going to then do is I'm going to apply it to the bamboo. As you can see, I've prepared the bamboo and I've removed the top waxy layer so that we've got a more abrasive surface. And I'm also going to make sure, and I've done this previously, is just make sure this is all clean of oil, dust and any residue. So make sure wherever you're going to apply your flax fibre with resin is clean and ready to work. And then what I'm going to aim to do is I'm going to aim to put this on flatly so that as much of the material is bonding onto the bamboo as possible. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that. And I'm trying to get this on as flat as possible. So there's no air gaps, there's no bubbles, and there's no build-up of excess glue. And hopefully you can see that. And what I'm doing is I'm focusing around this key join area first because I want a higher concentration of material around this key join. I'll just move my hand. So this area here. And I want at least 3 to 4 layers of this particular fibre around this key join area. And then obviously as I go further away from the high stress area, I'll have lower amounts of fibre. Okay, so we're going to aim to start here. I'll apply another one. And I'm just trying to look where I'm doing each one. So every one you put on, try and plan where you need to cover. And we're trying to maximize coverage. The initial layers that you do, okay, you want to make sure that the connections are really good. And then as you build up the layers, you want to start thinking about how it's going to look, the appearance, the smoothness, and obviously if you're going to paint and finish it, that's something to consider as well, okay? So I'm going to wrap this around here. And this is a really, really simple way for you to join any piece of bamboo. I've seen people put cars together like this and then crash it off mountains. And this is a really, really strong technique. And if you really get into composites or biocomposites, there's loads and loads of case studies around composites and how much stronger they are than traditional materials. I think one of the more basic ones to look at is implementation of carbon fibre during the Vietnam War in helicopters. And it massively increased the durability of the rotor blades. And the big benefit of biocomposites is you can build up intricate shapes, and because of the weave and the layup, you can create loads of blended layers that will all move and be a much, much stronger structure. So I'm just running through this demo, so hopefully this is making sense. As I said, you've got to make sure that you soak the cloth through, and then I'm just tightly applying this as tight as I can onto the bamboo to create a really smooth join. Okay, so I'm going to wet down another piece and I'll just do one more. If you've got any questions, please do ask. And thanks for joining this live demo on biocomposites. Hopefully everyone can see what I'm doing. So I'm aiming to get a build up of 3 to 4 layers around the key join. and then I'm going to start to taper this. And what you'll notice, I'm locking off the fibre, and then this allows me to pull it and put really high pressure on the joint itself. Okay, and that's wrapping around. Okay. So I'm just going to show you that for now, guys, and then what we need to do is we need to add as much compression when the biocomposite dries. Okay, and generally a compression will come through a vacuum, it can come through a mould, or what we can do is, because we're doing a hand layup, is we can use a tape and we can apply that as a compression. So this is one of the simplest forms of moulds. So I'm just going to apply this tape over this, and what that's going to do is it's going to add additional compression. So it's going to take away any air gaps. It's also going to take out excess glue, and then it's going to improve the overall finish and appearance of the fibre itself. Okay, and then that gets wrapped around, and I'm going to compress that over. And that's going to leave, I'm going to leave that to dry now for at least 3 hours. And once that's dried, I can then I can remove all the tape, I can sand it, I can paint it, I can finish it however I want, or I can apply more fibre on top, so long as I rough the surface up. Okay? So this is exactly how you can make a carbon fibre bike. You can make a flax fibre bike using this technique. It's transferable across so many applications. And you can just see that I'm making sure that I've covered every area of the tape with tape, and I will leave that to dry. And that's basically it. So that's basically, I'm going to take my gloves off now. That's basically how you create a biocomposite and how you create a join around the bamboo. And another form of biocomposite, just to kind of make you think a bit more, what I've done here is I've split and joined bamboo. That's using a biomaterial, and that's using a glue composite to create a new shape. And this will be structurally stronger than standard bamboo. Okay? So thanks ever so much for joining us on Biocomposites. I'm going to pop my glasses on, and if anyone's got any questions, I'm going to come and have a look at the screen. It's a relatively quick one. I'm just going to have a look now. So Tim, the beer's here, so thank you very much for tuning in. Got the beer. Tim's contributed very nicely to say FPP3 mask. Yeah, so good quality mask is really useful in this place. How much life? So Drew's just asked, how long would this last? So biocomposites should last indefinitely, really, because of the type of resins that you're using. It's creating a polymer, so it's an extremely strong structure. Obviously you need to protect it against UV, and that's where a finish can be applied, so that would help with longevity. And obviously if you are using it in a high stress scenario like a bicycle, if you did have any deterioration, it may fail. So it's really about making sure the application of the biocomposite is correct and that the final protection is really good, so it's protected from UV and so on. And you should get biocomposites that last a lifetime, really. And there's evidence of that in the industries of biocomposites, so things like carbon fibres, and equally a traditional wood, like a plywood, that could be considered a composite as well, and you can see the longevity around those as well. So Drew's also mentioned fly cane fishing rods. So fly cane fishing rods are made using a variety of bamboo called tonkin, and it's a very straight, almost no node. It's actually this bamboo I've used here, so you can see it's got a very low node profile, and it makes it perfect for something like a fishing rod. And the way that they do it is that they split the bamboo into triangles and then they join it into a single rod. So it's another example of turning bamboo into a composite, and then you get a lot more strength and durability out of that fishing rod. And you can imagine the pressure and load that a fishing rod goes through. So yeah, that's a really, really good example of a bamboo biocomposite.
There's another question that Drew had asked about the sanding of the bamboo.
Yeah, so you can obviously sand all the bamboo down and you can alter its appearance. like I always say with bamboo, you need to think about the environment it's going to be in. If it's going to be used in an exterior environment, you need to make sure that the bamboo is protected with a varnish or a polyurethane spray or whatever it is. It needs to be protected. You wouldn't put a beautiful oak chair outside and expect it to last. You wouldn't put a steel mast or whatever else outside. So yeah, you can sand all the bamboo back. That will expose a really nice pattern, and then you can apply a coating on. And obviously, as I mentioned, if you are joining bamboo in this way, you need to take away the top coat of the bamboo because it's very, very high in silicon, so it won't naturally bond. So wherever you're going to join bamboo with a biocomposite, it's worth removing that top layer. Just going to have a look over at Facebook, see if there's any comments. Okay, that's everything, I think. Okay. So thank you ever so much for joining the Workshop Wednesdays about biocomposites. So we've just run through how everything gets joined and how you can create your own biocomposite at home. This is the same technique that we'd use in a workshop, in a kit. And what we really focus on is creating a formula. So this kind of formula of how it works. And then you can apply that across multiple types of bikes, whether it's a cargo bike, whether it's a mountain bike, and so on. And just by changing this slightly, we can increase the strength and we can manipulate it fully. So this is a really kind of basic method, but it's actually really accessible for everyone at home to do at home and really easy to do. So I've just run through it very basically, but hopefully it gives you a taste of what you can do and how you can join bamboo to create bicycles, to create features or whatever else you want. Or if you wanted to create a really nice mold of a biocomposite, so if you wanted to create mud guards or anything else, it can be molded into shapes using glues and materials. So it's a really modern engineering concept. So I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into Wednesday's workshop. We will be running another live session next week, so please tune in. And thank you ever so much for all your support and for tuning in. We're still going despite all the crisis that's global, unfortunately. And thanks again.